I played Dead by Daylight for a little under a year now. I witnessed 4 killer releases as well as 6 survival releases over the time. I joined the community when VHS was sky high and everyone got low-key bored of playing DBD. Although the game was in this miserable state, I started creating content and ended up being here on this platform with a deep connection and love for Dead by Daylight. A video of odds, however, started grinding my gears massively. Are we going back to the 2019 meta? And so I thought more deeply about this. What if, in the year that I have played this game, nothing has changed at all? To review that part in more depth, let's focus first on what state we have found the game 1 year ago. The killer role was in a very tough spot. With the release of boons and especially Circle of Healing, things got even more absurd, and that led to many players, even some well-known DBD enthusiasts, quitting the game entirely. From October 21 to April 22, DBD has lost a little more than 50% of its entire player base, which is just absolutely ridiculous if you ask me. I mean, towards the end of a season, you kinda expect numbers to drop, but you also expect them to go up when the new update and the new killer drops. In this period, we had 2 releases, one being the Artist and the other one being the Unreal with the Satirical Rising chapter. And to no surprise, neither of those releases could stop the train from aiming towards rock bottom. If new killer releases and new perks can't save a game, what could? The 6.1 update was what followed and can be considered as a very important update in the game's history. The update entailed a significant buff to killers and a major nerf to survivors. Gens now take 90 seconds instead of 80 seconds to get a mini pop each time you kick a gem. Blood loss trigger have been reduced, the pellet kick timer was also reduced by 10%, and there's so much more that I can't cover all here. The survivor side also got some minor tweaks, most prominently that now BT is base kit, and with that, annoying tactics like tunneling got majorly nerfed, although as we know now, they're not entirely impossible. Alongside all of this were numerous perk changes. To go through all of them would be a bit of a time waster, but in order to fully display what I'm trying to tell you, we need to cover some perks from the upper ranks to fully establish a deeper understanding of what I'm trying to say. Dead Heart got changed. The old Dead Heart has given you an invincible frame and also gained distance. It was easy to use and even useful to use when you just need to get to a pallet or a window without the killer being somewhere close to you to extend the chase further. Now, you Dead Hard and are given the endurance status effect for 0.5 seconds, meaning if you get hit, you get deep wounded but gain every effect from a normal hit. In the end, this is harder to use, but isn't that more of a restructure than actually a straight up nerf? Off the Record was hugely buffed and therefore needs a mention too. Before the 6.1 update, it was hardly used by anyone, but now it grants the endurance status effect for 80 seconds after successfully being unhooked and is disabled once the exit gates are powered. This, to put it simply, is basically borrowed time on steroids and even adds a good Iron Will on top for the time this perk is active, as you won't make any grunts of pain. Just to mention Iron Will for a second, Iron Will in this patch got nerfed, as well as the Side Strike, and many other survivor perks got changed, nerfed or buffed accordingly. What? Why am I telling you this basically? Why am I telling you about Dead Heart and Off the Record? Because I want to showcase you one thing. That nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, has changed. Dead Heart before the update was by far the most used perk in the game, reaching heights of almost 50% usage. And now the question, where does Dead Heart sit after roughly half a year when this update is dropped? Yep, back on the top and is seen multiple times each game. Yes, the perk dropped to 14% usage, but it has climbed back up and hasn't stopped doing so. The Dead Heart nerf has affected other exhaustion perks and sparked the variety for sure. Sprint Burst was getting a small boost with life gaining 10% in average usage after the update. Both perks, however, seem to steady decline, and this very carefully. The question, is the meta shifting back? Off the Record, a borrowed time Iron Will steroids combination is also featured in the top 10. To put that into comparison, before the patch, borrowed time was used by 38% of the player base and now only by 8%. If you really think about it though, because it belongs to the base kit, it's actually used by 100% of the players. And will drop from 25 to 5%. Off the Record currently has a usage of 12%. Looking at these stats, looking at what it entails, I can't really grab a meta change here. Adrenaline and Windows haven't been changed in the update, but have steadily climbed the ladder, and resilience is the same old. Proof itself was used to some extent before and now belongs inside the top 10 as gens now take 90 seconds. If we now shift it, we can also create the same picture for killers, with only one difference. Killers are in a way better spot than before the 6.1 update, but not for the reasons you may think. What was essentially nerfed wasn't the overall survival role, but the missing communication between players. Proof itself being more used than ever outlines the major problem that survivors have: solo queue. I could go on, make a full in-depth analysis of why solo queue is dead, but I'd rather skip that part and quickly showcase something. We were so certain that the killer meta was changing up, but pain resonance is as used as ever despite being nerfed. The idea of Deadman Switch and pain resonance was nerfed and kind of like deleted from the game, but it kind of got reversed just in the 6.2 update. Sloppy Butcher hasn't changed at all, and let's make it really short here. Swapping one progression perk for another that still requires you to kick a gen isn't considering shaking up the matter, but is actually making the core problem way worse. By the way, did you know that here in Germany it is completely legal to try to escape from a prison? A weird random fact you may think, but look towards that fact with more regard. Freedom, self-exploration is important and in fact so utterly human that the grasp of it can't be charged by anyone. I have witnessed the game's lifecycle. Events come with tomes and a tiny tweak to the gameplay that makes the game exciting for a day or two and then it completely fades away. Forcing offerings for blood points and call it an event ain't it. Selecting stuff in the trial ain't an event, but rather a thing you have to do extra. And further, hiding inside a snowman is the equivalent of hiding inside a locker, with the only difference being that the snowman can move and the locker can't. This won't change the game. And now, let's draw back to what I've said in the beginning of this paragraph. Trying to escape from a prison ain't a crime. Humans try to break a stigma all the time. I can't wait for another year of events with tomes that force me to use envelope to gain some extra blood points. It's nice, yeah, okay, cool, but a loop like this needs to stop. Killer, map and survival releases won't fix the core problem the game currently has: timeless stagnation. Looking at all those stats in more detail, considering every aspect, although we just did it very briefly and almost rushed it here, makes me realize one crucial thing. In the 1 year that I have played this game, we haven't moved and are still stuck in the same situation we have encountered 1 year ago. Player numbers shrink and are almost coming down to the worst it has arguably been in the history of this game. I can only paint a picture of the past year, but looking forward, things need to change. But the question remains now, why am I bringing this up right now? One of my favorite games of all times is Apex Legends, and the new map, the new legend and everything about the new season was seen as a major letdown. People are disappointed, bored and burnt out to a point where they can't stand this game anymore, me included. Apex and Dead by Daylight, believe it or not, have a lot of similarities, especially when you compare their roadmaps to one another. Apex is on the same 3-month schedule, including one collection event with new cosmetic and a side event with even more skins but now with an included limited time mode. This is a never-ending system of an ongoing loop in the game, and it exists since August 2019. And only now, the Apex community has decided to punish the game with leaving and not playing it further, dropping the play numbers, and Dead by Daylight is just 1 inch. One poorly designed killer, one poorly designed update away from following this path downhill. I get that the roadmap the developers have is tight, and I absolutely get that. But behavior, please realize one crucial thing. Adding ain't fixing. We don't need a solution tomorrow, or the day after, or next week, but we need it sooner rather than later. We cycle in an endless loop of content, and what we need is a shake-up to the entire core of Dead by Daylight. My name is Modern Agony, and thanks for listening.